How's it going, everyone? Shiny Plume here with a new deck profile. This time we got a 60 card plant pile list. Now, before we get going on this list, I'm going to be preface this by saying I don't usually play 60 cards when it comes to plants. And part of the reason why I don't is because I tend to stick around 45 personally. 45 cards just usually feels better for me, somewhere between 42 and 45. But mostly this deck just focuses on Sunavalon, Aroma, and Rikka. I'll get into stuff about the Ragnaraikas and Therions later, but let's get into the deck profile. So to start things off, got 2 copies of Sunseed Loci. Now you can play 3, and there's nothing wrong with playing 3, but you don't usually want to see it in your hand. And usually if you do, it's the card you're normal summoning. But usually you want to summon it out of the deck with other cards, which we'll get into. Next, we got 1 copy of Sunseed Twin. This is the mandatory brick that you're going to be playing if you're going to be playing the Sunvine engine. And it's part of the reason why I don't often play the Sunvine engine. But the amount of advantage you get from summoning this from your deck with a Sunvine Sowing is just really good. Then for the rest of the Sunvine engine, I played 1 Sunvine Sowing. This is the card that would get you the twin out of the deck if it's not already in your hand. And this card, combined with the Link monsters, just gets you so many bodies onto the field that just starts your combo straight away. Then to supplement the Sunseed engine, we got 3 Unexpected Die to summon the Loci, and 3 Permanent Roar to summon the Loci. Both of these cards effectively do the same thing. You can special summon a normal monster from your deck. The Primate Roar, you're going to have to pay 2,000 life points and then declare Sunseed Loci to summon it from the deck, but it effectively does the same thing. Now you may notice I'm not actually playing Primate Lordly Load in this deck. I think part of the reason why is just because part of it's why I didn't have room for it in the deck, because even though it's a 60 card list, I still wanted to make a lot of room for a lot of hand traps. But also, I personally just don't think it's that great. And part of the reason why, and part of the reason I don't typically play the Sunseed engine, like if you looked at my video on my Rikka plant deck, that's actually my favorite version of plants right now. And in that version, I don't even play any of these cards. And the reason why is, well, part of the reason why is because Sunavalon Dryas is at 1, which makes this entire engine a huge choke point. Now let's get into the next part of the deck, which is the Aroma package. For this particular build, I play 3 Aroma Lilith Rosalina and 1 Arrow Mage Laurel. But I also played 1 Aroma Blend and 1 Blessed Winds. So if you're playing Aroma, these and Laurel are like the only necessary ones you need, because this on summon summons Laurel, and then you make a link 2 into a Jasmine, and then Laurel gains 500 life points. Then Jasmine gives you a Search of a Plant Monster. The Aroma Blend is necessary if you want to play any of the Winds trap cards, and if you want to make Aroma Lilith Magnolia. But it's obviously not necessary. Now, the reason I picked Blessed Winds instead of Humid Winds, I think that, personally, I just really like Blessed Winds a lot more than Humid Winds. Like, Humid Winds is a decent starter if you have Blend. Like, if I'm playing more copies of Blend, I'd probably play Humid Winds. But this time I'm only playing 1 Blend, I'd rather have Blessed Winds as recovery. This can gain you life points, even if you are at higher life points. So it actually would help trigger some of the Aroma cards like Jasmine, for example. It can also special summon Aroma cards from the graveyard and also shuffle back plant monsters. So I just think that this as a recovery and an extension is a little bit better than Humid Winds in my opinion. Now let's get into the Rikka cards. So we got 3 copies of Rikka Petal. I honestly just really like playing 3 of this card. I think it's a great starter and a great recovery tool. I know that other lists that play a lot more engines usually play this at 2 or even 1. That makes it more of a combo piece than a recovery tool or a starter, which is not how I prefer to play the deck. Then we got one of the best extenders, 3 Princess. I've talked before about how, yes, you can recycle this card using its own effect, but you don't mind seeing this in hand ever. It's a free extender. Even if you have nothing on board, you can summon it. It facilitates a lot of 2-card combos in this deck, which I feel like a lot of people sleep on. And it really helps, of course, in your opening combo. If you have it and you have a Rikka monster on your field, you're just protected from any hand trap, really. Next, 1 Primula. I see a lot of people cut this card, and I get it, but in this version, I'd rather just keep it. I think it's just a good extender to have, and it's not absolutely terrible to have in hand. I know it's a very controversial one among the plant community, but I personally don't mind it. Then we got 2 Mudan. Honestly, I want to play 3 of it, but 2 is just fine. It searches you the field spell or glamour or any of the trap cards if you want to play them. And then 2 Snowdrop. I've been back and forth on 1 or 2 in this deck. I really like having 2. 1 is for the combo, 1 is for the grind. And there's many times where I played this deck and Snowdrop was at 1 and the second one definitely would have come up and definitely would have helped me win the game. So I personally just play 2. And it's honestly not that bad to have in hand either. Next, we got 3 Rikka Glamour. I see a lot of people play less than that. I think that's just wrong. Just play 3 Glamour. It's just really good. Gets you any of your Rikka monsters and sometimes your other plant monsters. 3 the field spell. Best card in the deck, especially going second. Going second, this card is a powerhouse. Like, this card is just so ridiculous, and I'm shocked that people are playing it at less than 3. And then for the trap cards, the Rikka trap cards, I played both Sheet and Tranquility in this build. I just like both of them, honestly. You can, if you're playing plants, you can probably cut the Tranquility, but I just like having both of them as options. Both of them have their uses, and both of them are really good in my opinion. And Tranquility does come up in a lot of grind games in ways that Sheet never will. All right, that's it for the Rikka side of the deck. Now let's get into the other plant monsters / like other engine cards. Played 1 Lone Fire, best plant card. 1 Lilyboria. This card is necessary. I feel like even if you're not playing a full Therion package, you still need to be playing one of this. It's just really good if you start with an Aroma card, and also it's just a free extender. Then we got my favorite card in the game, Titanial Princess of Camellias. You don't have to play this card. I just personally like this card as a pet card of mine. I think it's really fun. Finally, 1 copy of 1 for 1. People are always back and forth on whether or not to play 1 for 1. And in a 60 card list, you're not really going to see it very often, if at all. And so I get it. But the thing is, this can get you any of your starters. This can get you Lokai, this can get you Rosalina, it can get you Rikka Petal, and any of those 3 are 1-card starters. Well, they all facilitate different combos, but they are 1-card starters nonetheless. And if you're playing like the Ragnaraikas, which I'm not in this build, that also turns 1 for 1 into another 1-card starter for a different reason. Now, that's it for the plants and the engine, so let's get into the non-engine I played. So for the non-engine, I ended up playing 21 cards. I played 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Ghost Bell, 3 Mulchamri Fuelos. Now, this card, honestly, I'm probably going to cut it entirely because there was never a situation that this card came up over the many like games I've played with this card in my deck. If you can't afford this card, don't worry about it. You don't need to play it. Then we got 3 Ghost Ogre, triple Tactics Talent, triple Tactics Thrust, and 3 Imperm. Honestly, I really like the rest of the hand traps in this deck, aside from Fuelos. I think if I was going to cut Fuelos, I would probably add, I don't know, maybe a Droplet or something. I haven't decided yet. But the rest of the hand traps I think are perfectly fine. Now that's it for the main deck, but before we go into the extra deck, I want to quickly talk about why am I not playing the Ragnaraica cards or the Therion cards. Now, part of the reason why is because one, I wanted to have more room for hand traps. The second reason, I wanted to have room for a bigger Rikka engine because I think that's the best engine in the deck. And honestly, the one I wanted to play a little bit more was the Therions, but the Therions don't do a whole lot going second, and it unfortunately relies way too much on starting with exactly the Sunseed Jizz Lokai stuff. And honestly, that's just part of the reason why I cut it, because you're not going to start with it very often. Like, if you start with Aroma Rosalina or any of the Rikka cards as, like, your starters, except for maybe, like, Princess plus Budan, you're not going into the Therions anyway. So it just ends up making the engine just completely dead if it's in your hand. As for the Ragnarekas, I just don't like this engine, like, at all. I think because realistically, you're playing 3 Evil Seed, 1 Samurai Beetle, and 1 Bloom. That's 5 cards, and 2 of those are bricks, and the other 3 are just they're fine, they're decent, but it ends up being win more in some matchups. And the other thing is that, like, when you're playing this many engines, even in a 60 card list, you're spreading yourself out way too thin. Like, you're adding so many engines to the deck that it's just like you're not adding anything that really matters. You're just adding more bricks so you could play more engine, which, I mean, you don't really need to play this much engine. Realistically, it's just better to keep things a little bit more simple. That's part of the reason other reason I don't play 60 card plants. It's way too complicated for its own good. I don't think it's better than playing 45 card plants. But either way, that's it for the main deck. Now to get into the extra deck. Like I said, I play 1 Magnolia. Now, again, if you're playing Aroma Blend, you should be playing this, but you don't have to play Aroma Blend, so if not, then you don't have to play this either. Then for the links, we got 1 Dryas, 1 Healer, 1 Thrasher for the OTK, 3 Jasmine, which honestly in this build you probably only need 2, 1 Dance Peon, 1 Rosemary to search the Aroma Blend, 1 Melius for part of the OTK, and 1 Bangle Lancer. I'm always back and forth on Bangle Lancer. It's okay. It's not great though. Then we got 2 Strenna, one of my favorite cards in the deck, 1 Teardrop, one of my favorite boss monsters in the extra deck, and 1 Sacred Tree Beast, which honestly doesn't come up as much as it used to, but it's still okay. So that's it for the extra deck. Now for the side deck, got 1 Cactus Bouncer. Now, like I was talking about before, this is just kind of a tech card, and honestly, it's not one you get out very often unless you start with 1-for-1 Unexpected Die or Primate Roar. And you might think, well, then isn't that what you just said about the Ragnaraikas and stuff like that? And like, well, true. This is only 1 card, not 5. You know, it's like maybe, and it doesn't really come up very often, but it's just still a card just to have. And we got 1 Rose Whip. This card comes up a lot more than Cactus Bouncer, and I honestly just like it a lot more. Then we got 3 Cyclone, 3 Dark Ruler, 1 Duster, 3 Book of Eclipse, which is honestly just fine. I don't love it or hate it. 2 Evenly Matched, and 1 Dimensional Barrier. And that's it for my Rikka Aroma Sunavalon 60 card plant deck. So what did you guys think of this deck? Let me know in the comments. And be sure to like and subscribe and all that, because it really does help me. I do want to reach out to more people. But yeah, what do you guys think of the deck? Let me know in the comments, and let me know in the comments also, like, what decks are you guys playing right now? What decks are you guys trying out? Because I'm also planning on playing some other decks and making some deck profiles on them in the near future. But for now, during the end phase, Petal grows back. Thank you all for watching. Peace.